Another post about the Magic the Gathering Arena economy means another update from your friend Neon, brought to you by Artifact Academy. This video breaks down everything that's been revealed in the most recent news, so let's get right to it.
Interesting.
The master!
Are you ready to have some fun?
Let's go to work! Two things to point out before we get started. First, this is in some respects a continuation of the last video that I did on the subject of Magic the Gathering Arena's economy, so if you haven't watched it, I would suggest that you go do so. It's not necessary, but there's a lot of really useful information in there. The second thing that I would point out is that I have a survey that I'm doing right now, gathering some information about players' economic preferences. If you go fill that out, there's a link for it below. This is a great way for me to get some information for some of the content that I'm doing, and it also gives you a chance to win a $10 Steam gift card. So with that, let's actually talk about what is going on in this update in the May 31st update that was released on the forums. When I'm discussing this, I'm going to actually break this analysis into both an economic component and then critiquing this just as a communication, because as you'll see as I go through this, there isn't a ton of economic content in this to latch onto, but there's enough to talk about, and I think it's worth talking about Wizards' communication strategy around Magic the Gathering Arena, because I think that this is kind of an issue for them. So of the information in this post that's new changes that are happening to the game, the most important is what happens after you get 4 wins in your regular constructed games in a day. Used to be that you really didn't get anything and you had to go play constructed events, but now they changed it so that you are going to be getting some amount of rewards past the 4th win. You can see a graph here that summarizes all of the rewards, and you also see there's an introduction of the individual card rewards. That's what the ICR stands for. These are back in the game again. Those of you who were playing back a couple of months ago will remember that these ICRs were in the game before, but they took them out because not a lot of people were really excited about them. But following the logic that I discussed in the last post that I did about this, where if you give something to players and then take it away, it kind of feels like stealing. By the same logic of that mistake that I was talking about before, I feel like there are some players that want the ICRs back, so why not give them? They're not really that valuable anyway, so it's not a big change and a big loss for WotC. But these rewards after the 4th win are significant and do reward players for continuing to play past that 4th win, which I think matters a lot and gives players something to do if they're looking to grind. It isn't nearly as rewarding as the first few games of the day, which is fine, and I think that it's good to have that drop off so that you're not really encouraging players to just grind endlessly to build their collection. But it's definitely nice that you can have this option that if you're 50 gold away from opening a pack or from getting into an event, then you can win a couple more games and get those last few golds to get there. Now, in terms of actual changes that were announced in this update, that's all, folks. Beyond this, there's nothing different about the economy as far as I can see in this post. So, as much as there's been a bunch of complaining about what's been going on and a lot of build up to this post, there really isn't anything substantial beyond this that's changed in the economy. Now, we do actually have, though, a lot of data that was posted in this update, which is very exciting for somebody like me, so I'm going to spend some time talking about that. Now, for those of you who don't know and don't follow the economy of other games really closely, no other company that I've seen has given out this kind of information. This is really good on them to come out and be honest about this, for us all to do the math and do this sort of analysis. I think this is not marketing to everybody, it's marketing specifically to somebody like me, but I love this, and they deserve credit, at least where in this respect. The data they give us is framed around how many packs you need to open to build a tier 1 deck. Some of this is focused around a specific mono-green Stompy deck that takes 23 specific rares and 7 mythic rares. And they claim that this will take about 120 packs that you need to open as a median amount to get this in their simulations. By my math, that means that it'll be about 75 days to complete, or $120 since 1 pack equals $1. They also looked at a range of other tier 1 decks. Those took between 95 and 145 packs, which of course means that it costs between $95 and $145 or 60 to 90 days to complete if you're going entirely free to play. I should note, of course, that those length of time free to play costs are ones that I derived from my calculations and were not officially released by WotC, but given the fact that these numbers looked really close to those that I calculated for how many packs you need to open in order a number of rares, means that I feel pretty confident. I feel like I nailed most of my calculations until I get some data that contradicts that. So how do these costs stack up with the rest of the field and what else you can find in the digital card game space? One of the terms that is used in the post is that these are in the competitive zone with other games. So let's actually look at this zone. What does it look like? Of course, all of you know that I use Eternal as the standard of what I think is the best of the free-to-play games and what it offers in that respect. Hearthstone is a bad example on the other end. So this is sort of the range. Eternal decks cost about $75 each if you're buying them just out of pocket, and they take about 30 days to build if you're looking at the average competitive deck. Hearthstone, on the other hand, takes about $105 and about 105 days to build a competitive deck, so a lot longer than what you see in Eternal. Other games like Shadowverse and Gwent are actually really close to Eternal in their levels. You could argue, some people have argued that they might be better in some aspects. Shadowverse is a little bit less expensive in terms of out-of-pocket costs about $70 each and about 50 days in order to get those competitive decks. Gwent, about an $80 cost for a deck and 40 days for building it from a free-to-play perspective. So pretty close to Eternal. I think that Eternal is a little bit better from some perspectives, especially because of their limited environment, but these are all really close to one another. Magic the Gathering Arena, on the other hand, is much closer to Hearthstone in many respects. $120 a deck is the average that we get from this. And it's also not like this is a number that I can get wrong in the calculations. They said in the post that it's 120 packs in order to get a competitive deck on average, and packs are $1 each. So this isn't a math problem. This is just basics here. And it seems like that's even higher than Hearthstone. The 75 days each as an average is better than Hearthstone though, but so overall I think they're roughly in the same zone here. So if you look at this overall, of course, you have a bunch of these digital games over on the left that are quite close to one another and they're competitive with one another in their cost. And then you have these two games over on the side of Hearthstone and Magic the Gathering Arena that are pretty bad relative to the rest of the field in their costs. Now, I have not double-checked verified, especially for Shadowverse and Gwent, that all of these costs are exactly up to date. There hasn't been enough major changes to the economy in those games, as I understand it, to really shift these numbers, but these are a little bit out of date, of about a year and a half old, but I think they're good enough to get you a sense of where Magic the Gathering Arena stands. Once again, when I was doing this math and given the calculations that I have access to, it seems like there's the same problem that I've described before, where mythic wildcards seem to be coming to you at a faster rate than you need them relative to rare wildcards. So rares are often the bottleneck to build the decks that you want. I still don't understand why Magic the Gathering Arena hasn't implemented a system where you can convert wildcards into lower rarity cards if that's something that you want. I've talked to people already from the Magic the Gathering Arena Discord who've described that they have extra wildcards, mythic wildcards, waiting to do something with them, because this is just a weird factor of the economy, that the mythic drop rate is a little bit higher than it certainly needs to be to build competitive decks. So that's something that I think is a change that they should still implement. One of the things that came up a number of times in this announcement and some of the subsequent ones is that there's going to be some substantial changes that are happening to the vault in the very near future. I'm not going to read through this entire blob of text, but basically the moral of the story is something big is coming to the vault. There might be change to the functionality of it. Unclear exactly what it's going to be, but that'll be happening soon, which hopefully will improve the functionality of it. But this turns into the next topic that I want to discuss, which is the communication of this article and sort of some of the things I think WotC got wrong in terms of just the execution of this update. One of the topics I was actually talking about with a friend of mine leading up to this announcement is the importance of under-promising and over-delivering in your communication as a game developer. It's really easy to overexcite your audience's expectations, and especially like things can go wrong. One of the things I actually think reading this whole article is they had plans of what they're going to do with the vault in this update, but they just couldn't get them done in time, and as a result they had all this buildup and all of this promises and this economic update, and it sucked because you couldn't get it done. This was really frustrating to the community. So just emphasizing the importance of under-promising and over-delivering, and although I do appreciate their transparency with things like the numbers that they're giving us, this might be shooting themselves in the foot in the long run. One topic that did come up in the post briefly that I'm not going to go too deep into, both the economics and the communications behind it, but I felt it was particularly tone deaf when they were talking about the different currencies that are in the game. There's a bit of this problem where you'll be left with a little bit of gems and you can't really do anything with it. You win some in some events, but it's really hard to spend it if you're not getting a continuous income. They're said in the game, it's like, hey, we have this premium currency and that allows you to buy special things, and it's exciting when you're a free-to-play player. You can do this too. It all kind of felt like BS. There's no real reason why you have all to do this. Why can't you have conversions between these if that's something you want to do? I think that would be a great thing to introduce into the game. Also, with the vault as being a third currency in some respects as well, you can involve that in this as well. So this was, I felt, a really tone deaf and out of touch element of the communication, and there's really no excuses for the system that they have in place, especially given the justifications that they gave. One final issue I have with the communication execution here is how the post just kind of felt sloppy. You put it on the forums, which I think just look ugly. This is what it looks like when you blur it all together. It's just like a crappy kind of brown as a background. It's really not pleasant to look at. You can put this on a website that you have access to. Like, why are you putting this on the forums that really just look bad? So you have that. You have a bullet point that's just randomly in the middle of the paragraph for no good reason. You have a table that was supposed to be between two paragraphs or two points, and it just dropped at the bottom randomly. You have all of these small problems. This also was released at 11 p.m. at night on the East Coast, which is 8 p.m. on the West Coast. So it's not like it was during the business day. You have this follow-up post that you had as well. Just top to bottom, this just felt rushed and unprofessional and out of touch, and it just didn't feel like the players were being valued. In many respects, this whole post, this whole drama around the economy is much more about the players feeling like they're being heard and being respected, and about communication more than the actual costs. It might seem petty of me to be pointing out things like problems in the paragraph structure or the position of tables, but you notice this when you're reading the post and when you don't feel like the devs are taking the proper time to really care about your concerns, put the effort into putting this up onto something like the mothership or their own website. It just feels like they don't care about you, and that's really the problem that's going on here at its core. To close things out, I'd like to read one specific paragraph from the post because I think that this helps summarize the philosophy with which the developers are taking to build this game and balance the economy. Collection costs. Magic has a lot more depth and diversity than other games. Due to this, it costs more to unlock an entire Magic set. But wildcards let us reduce this cost because we can give out more card rewards. We're more expensive in total, but we also offer a lot more gameplay. Now, the specific comment about wildcards decreasing the total cost seems a little bit bogus to me. I don't really know what they're kind of saying. Basically, they're just trying to argue that it means you don't have to open infinite packs in order to get the collection that you want, which I guess is better than nothing. But at the heart of this is the idea that these devs just think that Magic's a better game. And in some respects, I think that some of you probably agree with that. You think that Magic is a better game than Hearthstone or Eternal or whatever, and that's fine. You're allowed to think that. But they're deciding and sort of declaring here that they're not going to compete on the basis of economics. Magic the Gathering Arena is always going to be the more expensive option compared to some of the alternatives, either by taking a little bit longer to build the decks through a free-to-play style or through paying a little bit more out of your pocket. You just kind of have to accept that this might just be the case forever. One specific take that I thought was actually a very good summary of the whole thing came from Saffron Olive. Personally, I think that the uninstalling MTGA crowd is over the top, and there is a group of players that will never be happy with the arena economy. That said, the economy post was shockingly bad, especially after nearly a month of hype and delays. I think the Magic the Gathering arena economy is not good, but it's also not abysmal, and from a number of different perspectives. It depends on how you slice and dice things, but it could definitely be worse. Doesn't change the fact, though, that their communication strategy has been a big part of what caused all of this, and I think has really exacerbated the problem, so having something like a terrible post like this probably doesn't help. At the same time, players probably just have to accept the fact that $120 or over 2.5 months in order to build competitive decks, you kind of just have to accept these numbers. It seems like they're kind of set on that from what I can see. Don't expect any major improvements from this going forward, and if those start numbers aren't good enough for you, I suggest that you find another game. Thank you so much for joining me. This, of course, was brought to you by Artifact Academy. I have a number of articles on there, not just necessarily for those who are interested in Artifact, but other games as well. Please like, share, comment in order to support the video, share your feedback. There's a Reddit thread associated with this as well. It's linked below in the description. Mention at the beginning as well, there's going to be a survey linked in the description that you can fill out for a chance to win a Steam gift card. Lots of links below. Check those out. Thank you so much. Once again, take care, everybody.